Thank you very much. Press statement on the amendment of the RRCs, the Transitional Constitution 2011, and the general elections in the Republic of South Sudan. It has come to our attention that President Salva Kiir Mayardit on 11 August 2026 initiated a constitutional amendment bill number 13 and tabled the same in the Transitional National Legislature in order to legalize his violations of the RRCs. It should be noted that while citizens are suffering, starving, and going without salaries and wages, the President has been manipulating the Parliament by giving cash in order to pass his amendments. This amendment is now targeting key provisions of the RRCs that were incorporated in the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan 2011 as amended, such as in Article 53D on the mandate of the Artigon to enact the permanent constitution prior to the general elections, and Article 53M to conduct the National Population and Housing Census before the end of the transitional period, and Article 197A, Sub-Article 9 and 10, as well as 14, which address the conduct of national elections during the transitional period, and Article 202, Sub-Article 4, on the enactment of the permanent constitution prior to the general elections, and many other provisions of the RRCs as incorporated in the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan. President Salva Kiir has also announced the date of general elections on 22nd December 2026 in order to end the transitional period in South Sudan, stating that in the interest of time, the general elections shall be the link from the key prerequisites and provisions of the RRCs 2018, such as census, security arrangements, the permanent constitution, and due process enshrined in the National Election Act 2008 as amended, which also include census figures, registration of voters, and display of electoral register, demarcation of constituencies, and determination of the numbers of members of parliament to be elected to represent the geographical constituencies in the state and national level. The SPLM-SPLA-IO, however, would like to inform the public, IGAD, African Union, European Union, and the United Nations, and the international community regarding the current political and security situation of the country as follows. Civil war, its impact and division in the country. The violations of the RRCs, breakdown of permanent ceasefire, and the cessation of hostilities agreement have resulted into widespread unrest, death, injuries, displacements of population, IDPs, and refugees, and humanitarian catastrophe in many parts of the country as follows. Equatorial region. Out of the 8 counties of Eastern Equatoria, 5 counties, including Magui, Torit, Kafoita East, Kafoita North, Kafoita South, have been affected by political violence, hunger, unrest, insecurity, and displacements. Out of the 6 counties of Central Equatoria, 4 counties of Lanya, Kajokeji, Yei, Morobo have been affected by political violence, unrest, insecurity, and displacements. And out of the 8 counties of Western Equatoria, counties of Tumbura and Nigeria and their population are under the control and civil administration of SPLM-SPLA-IO, whereas Maridi County, Yambio, and Mundri have been affected by insecurity, political violence, displacements, and civil war. In Upper Nile, out of the 13 counties of Upper Nile, 5 of them, namely Ulam, Nasir, Maywut, Longchok, Panyekam, and their population are under the control and civil administration of SPLM-SPLA-IO. Meanwhile, Maban, Manyo, Baliet have been affected by insecurity, displacement, and civil unrest. In Jongole State, 6 of the 9 counties and their population are effectively under the control and civil administration of the SPLM-SPLA-IO, which includes Akobo, Uror, Nyirol, Oyet, Mogok, Sub-County, Fiji, Fanjak, and their population have been affected by insecurity, civil war, floods, and displacements. In Unity State, out of the 8 counties, the population of 6 counties of Panyijar is 100% IO. There is no any barracks of IG there. It's a full liberated county. Ler, the SSPDF are confined in the town of Ler with very few population there. The bulk of the population of Ler County is under the SPLM-SPLA-IO. Mayendit, the same. Koch, Guit, Rupkona are under the control and civil administration of the SPLM-SPLA-IO. The government commissioners are only in town where the IG barracks of the SSPDF are found. All these counties are affected by the civil war, floods, insecurity, displacements. Meanwhile, Mayom County and Ruang administrative area suffer from very severe intercommunal violence. And lastly, in Barakazal region, out of the 3 counties of Western Barakazal State, 2 counties of Raja and Yu River have been affected by political violence, insecurity, displacements, etc. The states of Warab, Lakes, and Northern Barakazal suffer equally from severe atrocities, civilian death, displacements as a result of perpetual intercommunal violence, lawlessness, insecurity, as well as displacements. In light of the above political and security situation, aggravated by the ongoing civil war, division, violence, and displacements, as well as lack of political and civil space, general elections in South Sudan shall not be free, fair, and credible, as it shall only be conducted in specific areas that are under the control of the SPLM-IG, and therefore such kind of elections shall disenfranchise the majority of the population who are affected by the policy of President Salva Kiir Mayardit, by the ongoing civil war, by floods and displacements, and are unable to vote in a free, fair, and credible elections. Such elections shall also be tribal in nature, as participants voting for Salva Kiir and his group shall have tribal inclinations. Salva Kiir and his cohorts, the political and the military elites, and the warlords that are now fighting in the front lines will try to mobilize their own communities to participate in these elections at the expense of a general elections where every citizens should have participated to vote in a peaceful environment, in a secure environment, so that they can elect leaders of their choices. The participants, I want to underscore, shall be tribal, as mostly they will be voting from specific communities, specific constituencies, and these participants and those who will participate to be elected, including the president, are the very people who have been responsible for corruption, for state capture, for war crimes, for crimes against humanity, and the destruction of the state. The regime of President Salva Kiir has divided and profiled the population in the Republic of South Sudan, especially in the 16 counties of the Nuer tribes. The Nuer community has been profiled as hostile and unfriendly communities to the regime. They have been waging war against this community, committing atrocities, war crimes, and ethnic cleansing. They shall not have the opportunity to participate in such an election which will not be free, fair, and credible, so that they can elect a president of their choice. They can elect governors of their choice, commissioners, and members of parliament that shall represent them at the state and the national level. Most of these communities are under the control areas of the SPLM, SPLA-IO, and therefore will never participate in these elections. After the sham elections, we are aware that President Salva Kiir is now preparing, buying arms, making recruitment in order to impose his false legitimacy on a divided nation, most of whom shall have not participated in the general elections to vote for him. Hence, elections outside the RRCs shall not lead to peace, but more violence and escalations. Violations of the RRCs and the unending transition President Salva Kiir has been violating and manipulating the RRCs with impunity. He has refused to implement the agreement. He has been responsible for the many extensions of the transitional period. He has grabbed positions allocated to other parties of the agreement. At the national level, at the state level, at the county levels, President Salva Kiir has been grabbing positions of ministers, of governors. He has even suspended the first vice president, arrested him, and put him on trial in violations of the peace agreement. President Salva Kiir has been responsible for the destruction of the Cessation of Hostilities Agreement, COHA, which was signed in 2017, and the Permanent Ceasefire, which was also signed in 2018. He attacked the forces that were assembled in the cantonments and the training centers. He refused to establish the hybrid court he also refused to conduct census. Even other transitional justice mechanisms like reconciliation and healing, reparation, Salva Kiir has refused to implement all these provisions. President Salva Kiir has refused to conduct the permanent constitution making process so that we can have a federal system of government in the Republic of South Sudan. In fact, President Salva Kiir is not a federalist. He's a centralist. He's a dictator. He believes in excessive powers at the center. He believes that resources should be in his hands, should be in J1, and he will give to whoever he wants to give and deny to give to whoever he doesn't want to give. President Salva Kiir has not only refused to address the root causes of the conflict, but also refused to address the effect of the civil war, which he started in the December 2013 in South Sudan. He refused to fight corruption, even when he has declared zero tolerance on corruption. Public theft of public property has been going on unabated. He has been promoting tribalism in the public service, in his office, in the foreign service, in the civil service, in ministries, in the presidential guards, in the police, etc. President Salva Kiir has been refusing, has been refusing and implementing divide and rule policy of marginalization and tribal profiling. He has refused to unite our people. He has been promoting militarization of politics and civil space. President Salva Kiir is implementing a one-party state political system. He has rejected reforms in institutions and laws. He has been promoting poverty through corruption, through public theft, through diversion of public funds. This resulted into lack of development. President Salva Kiir has been using displacements of population, IDPs, in the hands of UNMIS and refugees, over 3 million refugees outside the country. He has been using displacement as a weapon of war and ethnic cleansing. He has been committing atrocities, genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, as well as widespread human rights violations. He wants to use elections which will be rigged or will be elected only by specific communities, specific constituencies, and he would declare himself the winner and legitimate. We will not accept this kind of elections to take place in our control areas, and we will not recognize the results of these elections. The political and security situation in South Sudan have deteriorated since the breakdown of permanent ceasefire. His attacks on the cantonments and training centers, after arresting, detaining, and trials of the first Vice President, Dr. Riek Machar Durgon, and other political detainees, President Salva Kiir have since refused to heed the call to release the political detainees, to release the first Vice President, even when he knows the detention of these citizens and leaders of the SPLM-SPLA-IO, the chairman and commander-in-chief of the SPLM-SPLA-IO, whose members were in parliament, were in government, whose members are across the country, whose members are not united with the forces in Bilfam, whose members have not completed security arrangements. This arrest and detention endangers the peace process, and President Salva Kiir is determined to try to prosecute these leaders. We have declared this process sham. The court is invalid. Its outcome and whatever comes from it is null and void, and should not be respected and accepted by the SPLM-SPLA-IO. The SPLM-SPLA-IO would like to state that there is a renewed political and civil war in the Republic of South Sudan. The narratives that South Sudan is at peace, while the periphery of the country is grinding in civil wars, displacements, and death, is a blackmail and a misleading statement. There is effectively civil war in the Republic of South Sudan, in Upper Nile, in Equatoria, and in Barakazal. Conducting elections under this circumstance and outside the other axis, without security arrangements, without political space, shall not end the transitional period, as there shall be no new constitution. The current transitional constitution shall continue to be in place now, during and after the elections, with very few amendments that they are now doing. There shall be no peace in the country, as the root causes of the conflict and the ongoing civil war is not being resolved. President Salva Kiir has refused dialogue, has refused mediation, has refused the call of the guarantors of IGAD, of East African Community, of African Union, of the UN, including the UN Security Council, of Troika, and the Friends of South Sudan, to return the country to dialogue and to the peace process. He has turned all this down. Conducting elections, therefore, shall not end the war. President Salva Kiir is busy now recruiting troops, especially in Barakazal, in the name of the police, in the names of the vigilantes, in the names of elections. He is also very busy buying and shipping arms with intention to take war to the control areas of the opposition so that he can impose his false legitimacy on a divided nation that he has been fighting their communities, targeting them, destroying their villages, and displacing them inside and outside the country. With the lack of political and civic space, the SPLM as IG will try as much as possible to ensure that the general elections is in their favor, is rigged, in order to perpetuate the rule, the dictatorship of the SPLM-IG, the dictatorship of Salva Kiir Mayardit, the dictatorship of the governors, the same members of parliament who are now in parliament are going to be the same members that will be returned back to the parliament for another 5 years term in office. In light of the above development and facts on the ground, the SPLM-SPLA would like to state to the citizen of the Republic of South Sudan, the parties to the agreement, the guarantors, and the members of regional and international community, and the media at large as follows. The manipulation and amendment of the RRCs, the manipulation and amendment of the transitional constitution, and the insistence to conduct a sham elections outside the RRCs is an abrogation of the peace agreement and the transitional constitution of the Republic of South Sudan, especially Articles 1, Articles 2, Article 3. The SPLM-SPLA condemns this act of abrogating the RRCs and the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan 2011 as amended in the strongest term possible, and declares that the RRCs and Articles 1, Articles 2, and Article 3 of the Constitution have been broken by the current setup in Juba that relies on bribery, on theft, on dictatorship, on the military, and using war as a means of perpetuating their grip on power, and have long ceased to represent the Artigono and the interests of the masses. The SPLM-SPLA announced today, August 21st, 2026, it has invoked Article 4 of the Transitional Constitution 2011 as amended on the defense of the Constitution. Article 4 of the Transitional Constitution calls upon every citizen, including the SPLM-SPLA-IO members and supporters, to defend the sanctity of the Transitional Constitution. We also defend the RRCs. Any attempt to break these basic documents, legal framework of the Republic of South Sudan shall not be accepted and will never go free. We have invoked this article in totality. The current setup in Juba is dictatorial, is monolithic, is discriminative, is bent to marginalize the population, the masses of South Sudan, and does not deserve to rule the people through blackmail and deceit of peace when there is no peace, and sham elections when there is no free, fair, and credible elections. The SPLM-SPLA political structures and civil administration, including its armed forces and other organized forces, the police, the national security, the wildlife, and the fire brigade, shall chart way forward to restore peace, dignity, justice, accountability, security, unity, and reconciliation of our people, and establish a democratic society, a federal system of government in the Republic of South Sudan. All members of the SPLM, SPLA, and supporters, and informed citizens are hereby directed to remain steadfast and take up citizens' constitutional obligation to resist the tribal regime of President Salva Kiir Mayardit and his group from destroying our beautiful country and the unity of our people, and to conduct public awareness of the abrogation of the RCs of 2015, the RRCs of 2018, and the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan as amended, and to disseminate this destruction as widely as possible to the public, region, and international community. I thank you very much for your audience. Thank you.